Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the end of February, pretty close, February 28th, 2023 edition of the MSP Initiative Live. And we are back from the road. We were out on the road last week in Dallas at the Right of Boom, a very security-focused event in the MSP channel that's been gaining some good steam. But we'll talk about that and some other topics. But before we get started, some housekeeping. MSPinitiative.com. This and every other session will be posted on the sessions tab so that you can go back, rewind, and make sure that you hold us honest, I guess, to what we're saying. But it gives you a place to go back and make sure that you can not have to take copious notes. We're basically doing that for you. The community block parties. If you've been following us for any long period of time, we do these several times throughout the year, some smaller, some very big. Thanks to everybody that came out to these last year, especially for the people that hung through the hurricane force winds and joined us for the All-American Rejects private concert for the community. We'll be posting these in a little while, but they are planned, they are progressing. Stay tuned. We're going to bring you some good stuff this year. We also are doing 2 live in-person events called MSP Community Minds, where we're bringing experts from around the industry to workshop everyone on specific topics. Here are some of the people that are already, signed up to present and workshop through concepts of different topics and, different areas around MSP land. Here are the posted dates right now. I think these might change, but May 8th and 9th in Dallas and August 14th and 15th in Denver. Circle those on your calendar. Again, these are absolutely free events to MSPs. We'll be posting an agenda shortly, and we hope that you'll come and learn and get past the bullet points on the presentations and all the breakout sessions that you never went back and did anything for. And lastly is community offers. We have a few companies, including Atera, who's joining us on this call today, where effectively they're giving free offers out to the community to take advantage of. So we'll be adding to this list as well. Be sure to check back. And as we add them, we'll remind you. Our special guest speaker today is Oren. He is working directly with Atera. If you don't know about Atera, we're about to learn a little bit about them. But they're based out of Israel. They've been around for a little while. I think we could still maybe call them a new kid on the block to some degree, based on some of the other people in IT and MSP services land. But I'm not going to step all over the story because the best way to learn about it together is to hear it directly from the source. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Oren. He's going to give you a little bit of background on himself, and then we'll go into a little bit about what Atera does. And the topic for today is going to be very security focused, which is perfect because, coming off of the event last week, Right of Boom, security is a pretty heavy topic that isn't going nowhere. It is definitely in the middle of all things now. And whether you're doing it internally or whether you're outsourcing it to third-party partners, it is no question something that requires a lot of time investment, and it's not a one and done. It's a continuous thing. And if that's anything I took away from last week's event down in Dallas, is that, there is too many things to understand, follow, and update yourself on for anybody to be able to practically handle every level of this, right? It takes a team. Some of the resources that you require to do this, you probably don't have internally, right? You probably don't have all of the manpower and expertise inside of your organization to do it all. That's okay. There's help, but you need to understand the blueprint before you know where to go. But anyway, we'll go into that in a second. Oren, over to you.
So thank you very much for this great intro, George. And so nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Oren Elimelah. I know, quite a hard name. Actually, it's biblical. It stays in the family. Elimelech means warlord. My great ancestor was one of the warlords for King David, and I think this stays in the family. A few thousand years after, I'm still in the same business, but in a more digital age. So, about Atera, I'm the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, and DPO, Data Privacy Officer for Atera. As you said, Atera is a new kid on the block, but Atera was actually incepted back in 2016 to address the specific needs of IT professionals. And Atera was built on the vision of simplifying and streamlining the work of IT pros, such as myself. I've been working in the IT industry for over 25 years. The provision for it was to have a full spectrum of the industry and landscape. So to shift from reactive task takers to actual proactive problem solvers. So today, Atera serves more than 11,000 customers in over 105 countries on various industries. And our customers can be either corporate enterprises supporting internal IT departments, as we call them ITDs, with a single or multiple global sites. A lot of, as this specific webinar is, managed service providers supporting various SMBs with IT management services, and of course, IT professionals, break and fix services and ad hoc IT supports. So our current customer base is around 4 million endpoints, whether those are Linux, Mac, and Windows and servers. And Atera has constantly and exceptionally grown tremendously in terms of the numbers of organizations that we serve and the cutting edge features and the amazing interfaces that we provide and release on a continuous basis. And the integration that we provide, and I can just put something, as everybody's talking about ChatGPT, we already have it in to create automatic scripts for you based on this BI intelligence and AI. So we'll continue to do well and grow with you in the future. Some of the background on Atera. Atera has raised over $102 million in 2 rounding funds. And the 2 main investors behind Atera is GA General Atlantic and KY Investment Management. So we have a very, very strong family in the back. And as mentioned, Atera is mostly an all-in-one RMM and PSA, remote monitoring and management platform with professional services automation. This allows you, an IT engineer, whether if it's an MSP, IT department, or just an IT professional, to gain access, visibility, and control over your network and digital asset wherever you are and at any time. Basically, we enable you, the IT, full patch management, IT automation, advanced reporting, alerts, help desk, ticketing, whatever, and even dozens of other integrations with a huge marketplace. So definitely, we're looking forward, me and Atera, to have you on board and check us out. We're an all-in-one RMM and PSA platform, no string attached, unlimited devices with a fixed cost and a pay-per-technician-based model. So even if you 1, 2, 3, 10 technician, we don't care if you have 10 endpoints, 100 or 10,000. Very, very quick to deploy onboarding with a very friendly interface and experience. A lot of time-saving automation built into our library. And we have, under my domain, airtight security and certification, and huge marketplace to have leverage the Atera agent to quickly deploy and provision other security solutions and IT solutions, and a very active and supportive active community for IT practitioners. So this is pretty much the background and the basis behind Atera. And as you mentioned, George, it's going to be security focused. So how do you want to start? You want me to cover the market?
So I would love to. I mean, you have a personally, you have a very interesting background. I know you've spoken on security topics in forums large and wide. I'd love to understand for just a little while here, your journey, right? How did you start in the industry? How did you get to this position here at Atera? Like a little bit of your background, and then we can talk about, I mean, there's plenty of topics to go in. I mean, being a new kid on the block, I guess there's some benefits to the fact that you don't have a lot of technical debt, right? Where some of the other platforms are constantly having to go backwards in order to clear problems that, have unfortunately in other solutions created large security incidents in the past. So we'll get there, but I would love to understand your journey.
All right, thank you. So a bit of myself. I've been in the security industry for over 20 years. I come from the defense industry out of Israel. I think Israel is quite known in this market. I've been in critical and defense industry for more than a decade, serving the cyber directorate and the security defense in Israel. I was 2 times Fortune 500 company CISO. I've spoken, yes, in numerous conferences where that was a keynote at Gartner, for example, closed and open Gartner. And I've done conferences from 50 to 15,000 people all over the world in over 60 countries. So yes, I've been doing this for many, many years. And actually I teach in the Technion High Institute in Haifa, Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem for over 19 years. And I've trained over, I think about 1,000 CISOs during the years, which is quite extensive. So this has been quite a lot, an educational journey until I've reached a position. Atera approached me almost 2 years ago, asking me to come and make sure they're airtight, secured. And I'm here for making this happen and ensuring and entrusting the information and the access that our customers are providing to Atera and ensuring this is kept tightly, strong, and safe. So definitely, this is about my background. What have I been doing? What if those enterprises, bank, financial institutions throughout the world? I'm still a current advisor to the National Cyber Directorate in Israel for over 12 years. So I've been leading security in Israel and globally pretty much more than half of my life. Wow. So I'm very thrilled to be in Atera. And I think we're doing great strides here and we're improving. So this, I think, gives you a bit of the background and why am I here and what's looking ahead.
No, that's great. That's great background. I mean, quite frankly, I think, people coming out of the MSP arena, like security has really only gotten really heavy over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. The concept of a CISO, well, like most MSPs don't have somebody at the qualifications to be a CISO, right? So usually they would have to leverage outside vendors or an outside consultant, or even if people have started down the security path internally, I mean, I'm sure it takes a while to get past the exams and the tests and all the other practical things needed to become CISO material. Generally, I think we've been introduced to CISOs because, in the MSP space, because the vendors of MSPs have introduced somebody in that role, trying to get a handle of, what you're doing, basically making sure that you're secure so that the people who, use your platform feel confident that they're in a good place. I mean, I'm not trying to pick on other people in the industry, but there have been problems, right? There have been other large companies who are vendors of MSPs in the last 2 or 3 years that have become a news headline, that have become a noticeable, memorable incident, if that's the correct word. So like, there's definitely a concern. And I would say more MSPs have started asking harder questions, right? Not just taking the marketing for face value, but actually digging into what are the practices of the company to make sure that they're, in a solid place. So I'd love to understand first from your perspective, right? Like, what are the things that you do at Atera to like assure people who use your platform that, you're sufficiently hardened, right? That you have a good, secure solution.
All right. These are great questions and great remarks, George. So I have a lot of accreditation. I think I have over 20 plus certification, whether that's a CISSP, CISM. Actually, I'm a formal trainer for ISACA worldwide. I've got numerous security certifications for most vendors, whether that in threat intelligence, endpoint security, storage, whatsoever, really, network. I've worked with almost any vendor worldwide, and I'm fully accredited. But in the end, it all goes down to actually what you're doing and the support that you get from the company. Atera is a cloud-based platform, and is thus, as you mentioned, does not have any past background that she needs to carry, because everything is really cutting edge. We're based on the cloud, which means we're able to provide a lot of things really rapidly and elastically and grow and support wherever you are. But you've asked the question, what are we doing at Atera? So I think this revolves around 4 key areas. And one of them is ensuring that the compliancy part, whether that's ISO 2701, 17, 18, 32, SOC 2, GDPR, CCPA are all fully according to the compliance and audit requirements. I'll say to this, I'm actually currently, Atera is based out of Tel Aviv, but I'm making sure that wherever our employees are fully audited and secured. Second part is ensuring that the actual development of the product is secure, and this is working with the developer, with the QA teams, and ensuring that open source repositories, NPM, software composition analysis, static code analysis is actually done securely, looking both at the legal and the security vulnerabilities built into the code and to the packages that are being used. And this also entails code review by third-party vendor to make sure everything is secured. So that's the second realm. The third realm is actually making sure that the production environment, we have several environments, QA, staging, production, and development, but we want to make sure that our production environment and the rest of the environments are fully secured, and putting security on that environment in a very specific way. And this is part of everything. And also the operation security, the day-to-day, the corporate IT, whether if it's my laptop, the developer laptop, the CEO laptop, the finance laptop, servers, network, endpoint visibility, whatever this entails is secured. So these are the 4 key domains or realms that I'm in charge and was entrusted with at Atera. And everything is actually connected to our SOC team that is actually has full telemetry and visibility on those areas, and ensures that this is 24/7 throughout the year is fully secured, and having visibility into what's going on, and every alert or notification goes unnoticed. And this is also connected to threat intel from various providers, where if this is CISA, the Cybersecurity Intelligence Agency out of the US, or it is the INCD, the Israeli National Cyber Directorate, and other threat intel that we receive from various sources, making sure that everything is fully secured and protected. And just to give an observation, up until 2010, most security approach for CISA was prevent, okay? That was the goal, what is known as a perimeter security eggshell. But today, it's not only the prevent, it's also the visibility. So looking from 2010 and from 2020 to 20.
His connection wasn't secure.
We'll give him a second to come back.
Yeah,
How you doing, Keith?
Good. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad. Still on my Super Bowl woes, but you know, just in the off-season mode now.
You know, there's always that saying people say, is it better not to go and than to lose the Super Bowl? Yeah, you always hear that.
Yeah,
sometimes
that only comes from people that haven't been for a while.
Yeah, but sometimes it's easier to forget when you're like, you weren't even in the playoffs, right?
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. We'll wait for Oren to pop back in. Now it was I don't know if you know you haven't been on in a few episodes, but it was nice to see I think it was like 600 plus down at Right a Boom. So it was a nice event, which got me all security wired for this call today. But
yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, it's like
I'm sorry, I disconnected. I don't know where it disconnected, George.
yeah, the last we got were that your observation from 2010 to 2020 was that
okay.
In 2010 it was like prevent. Now,
yeah, exactly. Well,
from
can repeat
2020
that
on, it's been a more comprehensive thing. Uh-oh. Did we lose him again?
Yeah. You want me to repeat that from the queue?
Yeah,
again?
so go from 2020 on.
I know, I'm here.
Okay, go for it.
In the Atera office in Romania, so
Connectivity. It's a fickle beast. Still with me, Keith?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Anyway, well, we're waiting for Oren to come back in. He has a good story that we're about to get into.
Yeah, it was
Um,
pretty interesting, actually. Very interesting.
yeah, he's really, really smart dude. Really smart dude. It was actually kind of surprised, like the level, of, we've heard CISOs, right, at some of the other companies, right, but we didn't really understand their background. Sounds like Oren's really been through the ringer. You with us again?
Yes, I'm with you. So
Awesome. So
up
2020
until
and beyond, right?
He's
so
speaking my language.
So from 2010 till 2020, that was mostly focused around preventative and protection, what is known as a firewall, perimeter security, and eggshell. Looking for 2020 further, it's mostly about visibility. So you want to make sure that you're secured, okay? And also you have visibility of what's going on any anomalies. And this is actually works in the same framework as the MITRE attack framework, okay? Which is pretty much on the same areas. So you have the preventative and visibility. And this is exactly what Atera is doing to ensure on those four key areas, that is what we're doing. So I would love George to share with you also about what I see in the world of security, what is happening throughout the world, which is quite extensive.
Hard to see this.
And also provide some tips and insight that our MSP listeners can take home and learn from.
Awesome. Yes, we're going to share that. I was actually just showing, this is a booklet that they handed out at this event last week, right of Boom. And this is like a graphical presentation of the MITRE attack framework. So it's just interesting that you brought it up. I'm sure your documentation might be a little bit easier to follow, just because, there's less context in that document if you weren't at the event. Let me, since you brought up CISA, let me ask you a question, Oren. I'm very interested to hear your opinion. So they were able to get the director of CISA to make it a 20 to 30 minute kind of presentation at the event last week. Up until now, and even more recently, CISA seems to be taking this stance that if you don't need an MSP, you shouldn't use one because there might be more security risk than if you have one. I'm just confused, right? Because if the end customer, the small, medium business, maybe it's middle or big enterprise, they all have this, like the requirements fall on the enterprise, right? Like whether they use an outside entity, whether they hire internally, whether they even have the ability to hire internally, doesn't matter. It always falls, the buck stops at, the enterprise's desk. So, my position is, I'm just confused. Why would CISA say, well, MSPs might be bad if they're the people that might, have more capabilities to actually get the enterprise to where they need to be? I'm confused. It seems like maybe the director in his presentation last week kind of walked that back a little bit, but it just seems like there's a consistent messaging coming out of CISA that MSPs could be a bad thing, and I don't understand.
I'll explain it to you, which is actually creates a complex in a mix here. So one, there is a very lack of knowledge in the industry. Okay, we know this. I teach in the university for almost 20 years. I've been throughout the world. So to find a really qualified professional individual in IT and security in both these areas is rare. Okay, so for enterprises, corporation, it's hard. And to find a knowledgeable and keep them and not having to leave that position is even harder. That's one. To bring to this equation also, some of the people that the MSPs are leveraging are not highly proficient, and they can create like an attack vector to the end users. Now, if you combine these two things, then you have the predicament. One is most corporation and enterprises use people that have no knowledge in security, just IT, which is next, give permission. That's a problem. Second, they're not able to understand security as a whole and to understand what is the problem that they're causing, what is the access, because from their perspective, just allow the users to work. They don't think about security built in. Okay, security by design should be inherited the same way that we're doing at Atera. Now, because of this, and because that threat actors are actually targeting MSPs, we've seen, and I don't want to put any names here of competitors, but when you target a large MSP, and this has happened numerous times in the last 2 years, those threat actors are able to get persistency and access to thousands of end users and endpoints. And this is my biggest responsibility. This is what keeps me up at night. And I'm ensuring that this does not happen for Atera. It does not happen. It will not happen under my watch in no way. Now, definitely, we're having security built in. We're not trusting the user. We're not trusting the MSP. We want to make sure that we provide them with a nice tool. But again, this is part of the problem. And I know Homeland Security Director in personally for the last 9 years, CISA, and actually working with them and partnering with them. And I get threat intel from them. So the problem is that people don't follow the recommendation. We follow them verbatim by the letter and improve upon. Okay, so if you're using the best software and you're keeping the door open, it doesn't help. Suppose you have a house, you bought the best alarm system, but you left the door unlocked. What is this going to help you? All right. So this is part of the complexity that the CISA director mentioned, and the fact that, I think that corporation and enterprise should work with MSPs, okay? But MSPs should provide the right tool set, training, and capabilities for them to do the work not only efficiently and effectively, hence efficacy, but also securely. So this is my 2 cents on this, what you've mentioned.
I would think there's another point. You're dealing with regulators, and you're dealing in a business that is undefined, the wild, wild west. So there is no such thing as an MSP. We've been through that before. No, it's a made-up marketing term. So what they're basically saying, and I'm an advisor to we have a similar background in a lot of ways. I didn't go to schools in Israel. I went to lower end ones in the United States. But you're they're saying, we're recommending something that's undefined, unregulated. You just learn how to spell MSP and you are one. And that's where the legislator point of view comes. So when you're talking to a director of CISA, he's saying, you need to work with a qualified individual. I've heard his presentation for it. That's what I heard him saying, that you're more at risk bringing in someone that's not qualified. And I would say that's like asking your gardener to do your heart surgery. Right. I'm going to recommend against it because now, until we define it, and then you run into the question of who's responsible, right? Any vendor could have the best secure product, but if we're not practicing good security policies, procedures, and hygiene, it's like, who do you blame? Well, he has a great product. It wasn't breached. It was the way you implemented it. So there's a real partnership that needs to develop where you have to decide on your vendor scope, or at least in my opinion, and then you need to work with them and follow what they've outlined as best practices so that you're implementing it correctly. And so I get where the CISA was coming from, is until we've defined this beyond who's going to be liable for breaches, which is what the Attorney General did, then we need to really be careful on what we're advising. And as a government agency, I wouldn't advise unlicensed, unregulated practices.
Well, I guess the counter argument is, okay, take the MSP out of the picture, or IT service provider, or IT consultant, whatever label makes you feel good. Let's just move them to the shelf for a second. Now you're back to the actual corporation, entity, whatever you want to call them. They probably, depending on size, right? Like obviously larger companies can afford people like Oren who are experts, right? But like once you get to that, and I know everybody quantifies small, medium business differently. Let's just, for sake of argument, say, 200 employees and below, okay? Do they have that? They definitely do not have that skill set inside the company. It doesn't exist. So like, just to have nothing, no insurance, let's just drive and hope that we don't have an accident. That's what we're talking about then, right? So like,
I wasn't at Right of Boom. I've heard him make this presentation before, and I heard something different than you heard. I heard I heard him basically saying hired qualified resources, whether that be in-house or from a legitimate company, not some independent guy who just hung a shingle. That's what I heard.
Well,
Can I share
this is
something?
where we have to, understand the word qualified, right? But
I agree with Kate, but I'll share something. In Israel, the INCD, the Israeli National Cyber Directorate, actually issued a framework defining who is an IT professional, who is an architecture, who is a penetration tester. And there's a specific guideline directed by the Cyber Directorate regarding to the qualification, accreditation, and skill set that he needs to pass. Once you have this defined, then the regulator can say, I want to cover my, but follow those guides. All right. If you adhere to these criteria, you're set. And I think this is part of the problem. And I agree with you, Kid. But again, there's an equation here that you need to balance. Whether if it's, George's side, your side, mine, but we need to find a balance because in the end, the user wants to work. The organization wants to do business. And we're all dependent on IT. And security ensures that IT is secured. That's what we're here for. Okay. That's what I've been doing for over 20 years. And I've been in the IT industry. I manage security and I manage IT for organization with 24,000 employees, really. So I've worked hard, but today I understand not only the IT perspective, but also the business perspective and the security perspective. And these are all needs to find sort of an equilibrium to work together because it cannot be on the far end of each one. You need to find a balance. And I think we all agree here on a certain level.
yeah, I agree. So let's zoom out for a second then, and let's concentrate on the real world challenges of the MSP, since they're the people who are in the middle of this somewhere, right? We want to make sure that they're leaning towards the qualified versus unqualified, but it starts with several pillars, right? You have, a view of what the vendor SaaS provider to the MSP looks like. If we flip it around the other way, put yourself in the MSP's chair. What are the things that they need to understand as their pillars, and where do we start?
Okay, so this is a great question, but before we delve into that, I just wanted to, put something in terms of what our adversaries, threat actors are actually looking for. So, and this is part of the security realm that I can provide and this perspective. So, what we've seen, okay, that over 70% of attacks, okay, are actually malware free, which means threat actors are actually moving to a sort of a hands-on keyboard remote access techniques, whether if this using a tool, whether if that's a remote access capability, and there's numerous providers, and I'm not going to mention any names, but also something that we're doing. And definitely we want to make sure there's the security because they want to abuse valid credentials to gain access and persistency. So we've seen this. And also, we've seen an increase of interactive intrusion campaigns. So they're actually marketing actively campaigns for various applications, free application, and people are downloading them from unknown sources, not from legitimate sources, and active phishing campaigns. So what if it's the tool? It doesn't matter which provider. It's a legitimate tool. It's being used illegitimately to gain access. So this is something we've seen, and this is quite of the biggest threat that we've seen, and also a decrease in the time that it takes threat actors to to control your environment once they manage to get their foot through the door. This is a decrease from less than an hour and a half. In the last.
So could I categorize everything you just said, which is more deception, social engineering, and effectively just tricking people into unlocking the door?
Yes, and also in contrary to 2021, a lot of data theft and extortion campaign, but without the ransomware, because they've noticed that the increase of the backup and security of the backup has improved immensely. So there's been a huge increase, over 25% of data theft and extortion, but without the ransomware. And a lot of components are not being patched And these are what's providing those threat actors and adversary access, and also very, very low password being used and reused by various end users. And as Keith mentioned, if I have the same 1, 2, 3, 4 password and I have the best tool, it will not work. It doesn't matter. That's misconfiguration in the basic term. It doesn't matter what tool are you using.
So let me just rewind for 2 seconds. If the ransomware request doesn't come, what is the alternative? Are they selling the data then? Or are they what are they then doing with that?
They're going to extort you for publishing this, and so you're going to pay them not to publicize that. Okay, that's one. And that's extortion because they already have the data. You don't want this to go and become like something that will damage you publicly, disrupt your reputation, cause your subscriber, customers, end users not to trust you. Because in the end, we're dealing with trust, which is a basic foundation for business. And this is something that they're taking abuse of.
Okay. So it's the approach is the business strategy, if you would, of the bad guy is changing. It's actually growing and graduating.
Yeah. Indeed.
Okay. So let me ask you a question then. So that they're not, somebody's not specifically in the overarching sense. They're not targeting individuals. They're not trying to break through their perimeter firewall type stuff. They're effectively trying to use an easier path to convince people to let them in from the back end.
So threat actors have the same commonality with water. They try to find the easiest path. So instead of breaking the door, let's circumvent and use your stupidity with social engineering to trick you to install something. Okay, whether that's a malicious Zoom or any other tool that you might be, want to install.
Okay. I'm listening to you here. So that's the modern day. That's what's happening now.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So other than education, there's other things that can be done to limit the risk, I guess, because there's no 100%, right?
Never.
I don't care who you are and how many tools you have and how many people you have. 100% is not possible. So
there's never 100%. If somebody tells me he has 100% security, I walk away. Pretty much, because this is not real.
Okay, so everybody heard it again, right? That concept doesn't exist. Okay, so let's go back to the view of the MSP. If you're an MSP today, Oren, they brought you in and they said, "What do we need to do? Where do we start?"
So if I'm an MSP and I would pretty much, try to do several things, and I would follow as a basic. I think the NIST framework, CSF, cybersecurity framework, is a quite good one. But you can start with critical security controls, which is a subset of many other frameworks, but that provides, it's actually was called critical security. It was 20, now it's 18 critical security controls that you can leverage to secure what you're doing. And this will provide most MSPs a very good security posture that they can put on their customers and end users. And this is actually compound out of 5, 6 basics and the rest. So if you do it's an 18, so the first 5 and 6 will bring you more than 75% of the security, and the rest will get you to close to 95, 96. But this is how we approach this. Now, Atera has actually prepared a very good document, and this is actually being shared today, part of a campaign. And actually, there's a full TikTok of me going through each one. So I'm going to share with you how it's being approached, and you can actually listen to me on TikTok, providing all these key inputs, and also on LinkedIn. But first of all, if you look at the overall arching, you have several areas that are important. So usually when you look at security, you need to provide security for the users, the application, the endpoints, the network, and the data. These are the key areas that, of course, important, but also monitoring and governance on the bottom. So we're covering this. And if I was to start with something, okay, I would definitely start with the first one is what are the 5 things you need to protect your user identities, okay? And first of all is to educate your employees to use strong and unique password. Of course, case sensitive, mix of letters, numbers, and symbols, but invest on this education. And as a mandatory requirement, second, MFA, multi-factor authentication, whenever possible. I don't care if it's remote access network from external sources, privileged user accounts, all cloud resources, what if this AWS, GCP, Office 365, Azure, Dropbox, Box, Google, Workspace, whatever. Everything needs to be multi-factor authenticated. The third one is to ensure users don't store their password in their browser cache, okay? And or any Word or Excel file that's kept on the desktop or stored in the email, okay? Opt for a good, decent password management tool, and there's multiple in the market that you can use. Fourth one, but let me repeat that on the third one. All browsers, okay, Firefox, Edge, Chrome, use SQLite, which means it's actually a flat file, sits on the drive that is in less than 30 seconds, I can extract all passwords from there. That's easy. Hence the password management tool. Number 4, provide security awareness training. You can actually leverage this, and the MSP can sell and upsell to teach their customers and employees of their customer how to spot malicious emails or false website, and at least do it once a year. And there's a week, there's an awareness week happening every year, and start from there, and preferably once every quarter. And the 5th one is conduct email phishing testing. Okay, there's numerous tools, there's free tools that you can use, like GoFish, to validate your employees, to make sure that they understand how to spot malicious email at least once a month. This is what I would do, and this is what I'm doing at Atera, in order to make sure our employees are aware of security precautions. So this is the first thing I would do to ensure that my user identities and my customers' user identities are secure as MSP. The second thing I would do is, and I'll just give 5 because there's so many. I always give 5 in each one, is how to protect my infrastructure endpoint of myself as an MSP and also for my customer and users. One is to validate that all the endpoints operating system and also third-party software are fully patched and up to date. You can leverage Atera to do this automatically, and you can use any other tool, but this is a must. All operating system must be fully patched, really. And also try to make sure, I say try because I would say a must, but I actually come from the business perspective in the IT industry from my background, not to utilize any end-of-life operating system, whether if that's old Windows or old Macs or old Linux. But this can actually hinder installing other key security controls that we're going to talk about. So definitely, if you have something of end of life, limit the access, limit the user, put strong password, and try to keep it this segmented as possibly, and try to think of a phase rolling this out in the next few months or a year. Number 3, for protecting your infrastructure endpoint, use a unique password for all local admin access, okay? And I cannot stress this enough. We see threat actors leveraging very easy local admin access, and users should not have local admin privileges, and this is a must. You can actually check out admpwd.e by Gray Corbel. Try to look it up. It's a very good tool. It actually replaced Labs by Microsoft, which has been in use for many, many years, and I also recommend Labs by Microsoft. Number 4, for protecting your infrastructure endpoints, is to harden the security of all your endpoints, including, of course, laptop and notebooks. So what this entails, all endpoints should have an antivirus with heuristic capability. Even better, go for a good EDR tool. I don't know if you know EDR, but if you don't know, EDR is endpoint detection response tool. And these tools actually will protect you and will block most ransomware and threat actors' attack. And so this is a highly recommended. And for example, Atera leverages its marketplace to automatically deploy this. So the EDR actually allows you a high degree of visibility and help effectively protect against malicious cyber attacks. So it provides both of the part of the MITRE attacks, the prevention and the detection. And number 5, set up logging capabilities. Okay, so for example, for Windows, you have a host firewall, which is segmented to 3 parts: domain, private, and public. So the default is a measly 4 meg. Increase that to 32 meg and have a separate file for each. And this way, you will be able to investigate what's going on. And this goes together with having the proper auditing. So Microsoft group policy has auditing. Actually, in the advanced, you have 46 categories, items that you can check. You don't need all 46. You need like 9 or 10. So, but most SMB don't even enable that, and then you don't have visibility. And also, if you're talking about logging, partial logging, it's disabled by default. So make sure that you update your PowerShell to the latest version, at least 6, if not 7, but 6 is highly recommended, because this also provides you logging capabilities, because the old version did not have this, and to have logging capability for execution of PowerShell, and this will enable you to understand what's going on, and this will provide the EDR tool with better visibility on what's happening. The third one in this regard that we're going to talk about is, of course, the application. So let me just a second. I've written down that for me, just one sec. So to secure the network is the third one, and the fourth one is the application. So to secure a network environment, first of all, know what you're having. Most of the problems that I've seen in my years of working in the industry, over 25 years, most organizations don't know what they have. So inventory all network connected assets, okay? And know what you have and what's connected to the network. You can run an e-discovery tool. There's many of those. And Atera, for example, has built-in network discovery that you can leverage as a trial to know what you have and get a full map of the exposed assets, internal that you have. Maximize your firewall security by activating all models. I see organization purchasing the best unified next-gen firewall, but they're too afraid to activate intrusion detection, anti-bot, denial of service, anti-spam. Why? I promise you, in my years of experience, I can count on 2 fingers when I've seen a firewall reach its full utilization. And I've seen hundreds, not thousands. And also, implement network segmentation between network and functions. For example, HR, finance, legal. You know, this will actually limit the ransomware and the threat actors spreading laterally to the network. And if we've mentioned before the firewall, make sure that the host firewall and the endpoints, whether if that's Linux or Windows or Mac, actually has rules to prevent remote connectivity. For example, why is RDP built and allows connectivity in the same LAN? Why? It shouldn't be there. Okay, totally. That will, having an exposed 3389 port on a TCP is a bad habit. So definitely part of the due care and proper hygiene is not to have it enabled in the first place, and changing the port will not help, okay? Security by obscurity is long gone. Also, utilize DNS filtering or web proxy to protect against no malicious website. So make sure to leverage any DNS filtering. There's multiple like Cisco Umbrella and other ones that you can leverage, and thus making sure that every traffic going out you know about. And of course, if you're talking about the network, is the email security. So one of the most prolific ways threat actors are leveraging is to access the user, and an email isn't always direct communication to the user. So to have a proper email filtering to block known malicious attachment, check up links, scan suspicious file type for any hidden payload is a very good recommendation. So any attachments should go through a rigorous scanning with multiple antivirus engine and also a sandbox. Also very important, it's built into Office 365 or a local exchange, but of course I recommend the cloud Office 365, for example, or any other email solution that you have like Google Workspace, but tag emails arriving from outside the organization. So our users are more aware this is an external email. So if somebody pretends to be your CFO, it will mark as an external email. You will know it's not the CFO asking you to transfer money. And I would recommend to scan your customers' email domains. For example, if I'm an MSP and I have a customer, I would run a tool similar to MX Toolbox to scan his email domain for any security recommendation, whether if that's wrongly configured, SPF, DKIM, or DMARC. And this will actually ensure that me as an MSP is providing adequate and more than adequate on the top level security for strengthening my customers' email access. As mentioned earlier, as an access, make sure that MFA is for any remote access, even for VPN, CRM, ERP, whatever. And I would also, looking at the network, a lot of customers and MSPs sees this. They have a website, exposed assets, accounting system exposed to the world. These needs to be, of course, behind VPN, but even a website needs to be secure. What if this is behind not only a firewall, but a web application firewall, a WAF? And there's multiple solutions that you can leverage as a cloud, as an MSP provider. And also I would run like an external vulnerability scanning on those exposed network environments. And this will ensure that most patches, gaps, security, SQL injection, XSS are actually checked and are not exposing my customers to the outside world. Continuing, and I've got 2 more to go, so thank you for bearing with me. Is protecting your data, okay? In terms of protecting the data, is making sure, first of all, is utilizing a reliable backup solution, okay? This is a must, okay? And I cannot emphasize how this helped a lot of organizations recover from a ransomware attack. So have a full backup and of your data repository, if it's virtualization platform, files, database, and keep this data offline. What if it's in a cloud or an immutable backup or disconnected backup? I don't care how you do this, but I cannot stress enough how this is important for me as an MSP to provide this to my customer. And Atera also has capabilities, and we're working with backups providers and through our marketplace that you can leverage to back up your data and have it really secured. And if you have a backup, validate it. Really, the amount of time during my years of working in the industry that somebody told me, hey, we have a backup, but that backup was not good enough, not accessible, didn't contain what I needed, a lot of things. So a backup by itself is not enough. So you need to enable and ensure successful recovery from backup. So do it at least once a year, if not twice a year. And also looking at data, all laptops and desktops should have specifically full disk encryption. This is built in with Windows. You have the BitLocker, and you can leverage Intune and any other platform to do this. I also say that desktop, because if somebody has physical access, he can boot from a USB thumb drive and get access. But if the disk is encrypted, he doesn't have this capability. And even if a laptop gets lost and is encrypted, and this has happened for me for numerous customers before, that makes sure that that data for my customers is totally secure and cannot be accessed. Also, review your cloud service providers, okay? To make sure that all cloud service providers that you leverage, whether if that's Azure 365, Office 365, Azure, or anything else, GCP, is actually scanned, and there's numerous tools out there that you can check for ensuring that the data is secure there. There are tools called CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management. I can recommend one, for example, that I'm using called CloudWise, and it scans, and I don't need to be a professional and have a full training because there is hundreds of of rules to go through in the cloud, what if it's Azure, GCP, AWS, but this tool provides me with the top security recommendation. I can, as an MSP, look at what my customer is using and ensuring that he does the best security precaution. He doesn't have an open RDP, the file is not exposed to the world, security of the data access is all done in a proper way. And the last one is security application. And to secure the application is, again, quite extensive, but one of the first thing I would do, and I've mentioned the upgrade of the software and operating system, is all small applications, which means if somebody uses WinRAR, PDF, Node++, there's multiple small third-party apps, making sure these are also patched and fully up to date. Even any browser plugin, it's very, very recommended. Also, it's very, very important to look at all client side software, Microsoft Office, VPN clients, okay? These are highly important that you need to review and make sure that they're secured and validating that they're fully patched and up to date. And I think also very important is to have good monitoring, okay? This is something that the MSP can leverage, okay? And having proper Windows event forwarding, WEF, to a platform, to a SIM. If you can do this, it's great. If not, at least have someone look at the logs once a day or this to make sure that any alerts, recommendation, any pop-up doesn't go unnoticed in this regard. So again, these are some of the highly recommended things that you can do. And if I were to look at the MSP, I would focus this on the MFA, unique passwords, and ensuring that also all users and also the technicians that I provide to the user only have least privileges approach on the access, and ensuring that no local admin access, and review the lock attempts, and ensuring everything is fully patched and there's a proper cadence on checking the security in a whole, and ensuring that the backup is working. So I've tried to touch each one of the areas separately and focus everything together. And let me know if you need anything else. I'll be more than keen.
We could do a whole workshop on this. So there are some docs that we're going to distribute with this webinar podcast that Oren and the guys over at Atera put together. So
Correct.
This is good, right? You can follow it. It goes a little bit more in depth into each one of these areas. And quite frankly, if you need help understanding better about some of the downstream tasks that you need to do, that's where you start understanding where you lack internal, kind of understanding, and you need help outside rather than just, I don't know where to start, right? So this creates a little bit of a blueprint for you to understand what areas you can handle internally and what areas that you might need to outsource. And this MITRE ATT&CK like doctrine that, seems to be like what's the base foundation to all things security, is pretty deep. It can get pretty complicated, but the basic understanding of that is probably a good starting place as well. That was actually the foundation at the event last week that I mentioned earlier on in the call. They used the MITRE ATT&CK framework and went a little bit more deeper into how you build upon that in all the various aspects that you need to for security. So there's a lot to learn, guys. And that's why security is exploding. We talk about this topic often. I don't think we have somebody as skilled as Oren coming on all the time. And maybe we can tag him to come back later on and maybe expand in some of these areas. But, the good part here is that there is help. There is help. Do not go wandering and say, I don't know where to start, so I'm just not going to figure it out. Start figuring out the 30,000-foot overview of this thing so that you can actually intelligently make business decisions for your MSP and technology decisions for your end customer. And if you can connect those two things together, you're in a good place.
I think he missed the simplest one, and it's one-liner. Don't
Go
do
for it.
what you don't know.
Well, unfortunately, that's where the people get into trouble, right? Where they say they
Yeah.
know something, or their marketing company puts something on their website that they know something. They really don't know something. And that doesn't mean that they can't get that knowledge outside. But to your point, Keith, overstating what you do can be a problem.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There's enough people around that'll help you.
Yes,
For
indeed.
sure. Absolutely.
So I want to thank everyone here. And as you mentioned, Atera will be rolling out the document that you just heard, like a brief from it, but that follows both the NIST, both the MITRE ATT&CK framework, but these provide cybersecurity key steps to secure MSP business from cyber attacks. So definitely something to follow, and it's actually segmented to various areas, but actually as a checklist, it has a 1, 2, 3 levels. So you start with 1, go to 2, go to 3. And it actually includes specific links to train you on the key areas. So even if you don't know something, there is a link to take you there and follow a guide. Awesome.
That is great. We're going to distribute that to our entire database along with this video so that they can understand what we're talking about. But that's, awesome information. I see Atera is also doing a webinar tomorrow in conjunction with Axient and another MSP, covering, a couple of different topics that we talked about here. We'll advertise that as well. And then Bruce, you come up with the actual punchline at the end, Bruce. This is why we need to raise our prices so that we have the ability to provide the services. Yes. I ran into an MSP on the way out the door. I know we're overtime. His base fee per user is $89 per user. And I said, how are you in business? Like, how are you delivering any services at security at $89 per user? He's like, I guess we're doing it wrong. And I'm like, I just think your price point's
No, you're
too
not
low.
doing it.
He's not doing it, pretty much.
I can be meaner. I'm not a vendor.
I just said, I was like this. And then another guy across the table is like, I don't know how you can charge $1 under 175 per user. And quite frankly, I push to go to 250. And I'm like, this guy's talking about 250 and this guy's talking about 89. It's like two different universes.
I'm at a different place.
So you're at 2089.
Yeah.
Just maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, I appreciate your time, Oren. Really appreciate your background and your visibility. And the more we understand, I think the more we can make better decisions. And I think that your blueprint that we're going to distribute could be a good starting place for a lot of people. Thank you very much. Hopefully your office auditing in Atera goes well. Good luck to the people who are on the other side of that. Hope everything was ready to go. Thank you very much for watching. This session was recorded. We will post it up on mspinitiative.com under sessions. We'll also be sending out a blast email to the group with all of the additional assets here. Again, thank you for joining, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.